Hi everyone, I'm Aline from Parts of Culture and welcome to our podcast about inclusivity. Today we have a very special guest, someone that is really awesome. You will probably laugh, I hope, because she's really funny too. It's Allie Weis.
Hello everyone!
And Allie Weis is the ethics coordinator at HOEST DAE Digital Arts and Design, one of the best schools in the world. So it's quite an honor to work here, I guess, and an honor to have you on the podcast.
Aline, it is an honor to be here. It really is. And it's an honor to talk to you people as well. Thank you for listening and watching. It's been really incredible to be part of this team. And so I started, it was right before Corona, so I started in 2019 at HOEST, actually, because HOEST, University of Applied Sciences, is the larger university, and DIE, so Digital Arts and Entertainment, is actually one degree program within HOEST, but it's huge at this point, which it's incredible. We have a lot of students, but the team is just so inspiring and creative, and it's the kind of passion that they have for their jobs. It's unlike anything that I've really seen before. So it is really an honor actually to work here. Yeah.
I can totally see that. It's an incredible venue that we're at. We're at the site of HOEST. I have a really funny picture that I've just taken. We'll probably put it on the screen. It's crazy here. If you have any passion for game design or creative designing, like 3D, 2D, you really should go here because it is one of the best schools in the world, right?
Yeah. So we, not to toot our own horn, but in a very humble way. Well, we're very proud of our students, and they are so hardworking, and the commitment that they put into their work, it's just really above and beyond. But we have, thanks to the students obviously, and the staff and the teaching staff, we've won the Rookies, which is a global competition for the best game design and development school. We've won that 3 times now. So the most recent winning title came to us in 2021. So last year we were number 2.
Wow.
The number 1 spot went to school in Canada. So we like to say that we are still number 1 in this area of the world. But congratulations. So we came in 2nd place last year, and the Rookies, actually the awards for the best student works just recently came out, and quite a few of our students were recognized. I
saw like 3 of them, right?
Yeah. So super happy about that. But about the campus, it's just quirky. It's cool. We have a car that is just inside the building, because I think it was used for a student assignment.
Really?
Like many years ago, students always have to 3D model a car. And I think it was used like as inspiration for the 3D model. And then it just stayed here. Sometimes we decorate it. And then we have the robot, which Aline is
amazing.
Gracefully posed with. And it's also actually a result of we have a week called Creativity Week, where we just focus on enhancing creativity. No laptops. Usually, students are always with their laptops. No laptops. We're just working on creativity. We have like acting workshops going on, comic workshops, drawing, and there is a workshop making a sculpture out of trash. And that is trash. The result. Yeah, it was from spare like pieces of things and styrofoam, and so that was, I think, quite a few years ago.
That blows my mind.
Yep.
Okay, really I didn't realize the students made it. But apart from the amazing students, what is an ethics coordinator? Like, what do you do? How does that play out?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It's also one actually that I get often. And actually, I'm thinking of rethinking the title, ethics coordinator, because it fit at the time, because I used to be our community manager here on the campus. So again, like making students feel safe, making them feel welcome and included and feeling like they belong. But a lot of people indeed ask me, like, what does this mean? What is an ethics coordinator? And so I think the biggest piece of it, and I can go into like specifically what that means in a second, is making the students feel welcome here and making it a safe space for students to be unforgivably themselves. Mm-hmm. And we have to keep in mind the student body and the student community and where they also come from. So at this point we have 33% international students. So
wow.
We have around 1,400 students in total. And again, this is only one department within HOEST in general.
Yeah, but one of the quite well-known departments, though, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
sure.
People really come from far. Even in Belgium, I know people that say, I want to study this. I'm going from, like Brussels to...
Yeah, sure.
They really come here to study it.
Yeah, we have students from Limburg also. Yeah. We have students from Wallonia. Yeah. We have students from all over. But it's 33% international. We also have, which is amazing, a lot of now female students. Like our animation major is 50% female.
Nice.
Which is just incredible. But we also have a lot of transgender students, non-binary students. Our LGBTQ plus community is really growing. And so with that in mind, we have to support them while they're here. Mm-hmm. Because I think it's one thing to recruit international students, to recruit like marginalized students, but it's another thing to actually actively support them mm-hmm. while they're studying here.
And can you give an example of how do you try to support them?
So just this past year, together with my colleague Luna Fearens, she's the major coordinator of our independent game production major. Together with Luna, we actually started an initiative where we go to a cafe, we go to a park even, and we meet together with female students, also open to, of course, non-binary students, transgender students, with the sole goal of them meeting each other. Because often they can be, and especially within for example, the game development major, which is very heavy programming, and it still can be very difficult to recruit female or non-binary students for that. And the sole goal of those meetups is just that, for them to meet each other, because sometimes they're just in their class groups all day and they're maybe the only
queer or non-binary
or female, and they're the only student in the class.
Yeah.
And there aren't many other opportunities sometimes to meet the people that aren't in their class groups.
What do you think is the impact of your role on the society then of the students?
I've asked a few times to the students because I was the community manager before actually filling in for one of my amazing colleagues, and that was in 2020, and then I switched into the ethics coordinator role in 2021. And again, that's supporting the students, that's organizing meetups, that's having our Game for Thought live stream series. So every month, every third Wednesday, we come on Twitch every third Wednesday of the month, and we tackle a different ethically relevant topic in games or digital entertainment at large.
Yes.
So there's also that. I meet and I work very closely with, again, our LGBTQ plus community on campus. And I am actually teaching a career skills, like a soft skills in the industry, a course on that. And I'm also the point of contact for students if something goes wrong, and if they don't feel safe, if they don't feel like their voice is being heard, if something goes wrong, for example. And so they know that they can talk to me about these things, and they know that they can come to me really if anything is troubling them. And I've asked students before, like, okay, how is there a culture shift? Like, do you feel that it's becoming less taboo, I think, like to talk openly about how you feel, and if you feel like you truly belong. And again, I don't want to toot my horn, because I think it's a work of a lot of people, because one person alone really can't change a whole culture. Yeah. But I do feel like the students appreciate it a lot, that they have somebody that is really putting them first and taking into consideration their needs. Because again, as we have international students, as we have a lot of students also who are autistic, we have students from different communities all over, and it's important that we know our community, that we know the students. Because if you don't know them, if you don't know, like I like to say, if you don't know the who, then you can't plan the what. So I like to know the students before I plan an activity or an event, so I know what kind of they want, what to cater it toward. But this is a very long-winded answer, but I think they really appreciate that I am there to listen to them, and I'm there kind of to be their advocate. And I also want change. The industry, it's something that struggled a lot with homogeneity, and I like to think that I fight for change as well on the educational level, because it starts with education. It starts here. So if the industry is struggling with homogeneity and not having people of inclusive backgrounds, and then it's something that we need to look at also within the education space. So we need to look at our recruitment. We need to think of how we are actively, really tangibly supporting people of color or non-binary female students. But I think they really appreciate it. I hope they do. But it's also a thing where I know that things won't change quickly.
Yeah, it takes time.
It takes time. And sometimes you just need to be patient and trust that what you are doing will pay off.
And why does the school invest in this?
That's a really good question. The thing is, these topics are inevitably things that students will deal with in the industry. So these topics of inclusivity, of diversity, of inclusion, of accessibility, these are topics that they will be encountering eventually. And so why not start now within education? And not only, I think, will that help them as future industry professionals, but just as human beings. And that's also a part of why we are going to integrate the soft skills, career skills course in the games industry. That's part of why we're integrating it in the curriculum, is because at the end of the day, technical skills are very important, but you also just want to work and live with good people.
And with yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's something also that's very up and coming in the industry now, which is amazing, making more of room at the table for diversity and inclusion initiatives. And that's amazing. So we want to echo what's going on in the industry, but also we want to support the students for who they are. And then, as you say, I mean, our workload is quite heavy. It is a really challenging curriculum, and students have lives as well, and sometimes things aren't going so great. Sometimes they need also a helping hand. They just need somebody to hear them and listen to what they're going through. And so I also lend a hand with that as well. But yeah, it was our boss at the time, our academic director, Rick, at the time, who was like, look, this is really something that's prominent in the industry right now, and it makes sense, and we should start here within our own school.
That's really nice.
Yeah, it was really amazing to feel supported in that way, too, because my background's actually in psychology and philosophy, so I did not study games. I did not study digital entertainment, but I found it so fascinating, the overlap between all of these, like the more social like fields and game development. There's so much overlap. So I found it really amazing that they chose to invest.
Definitely. It reminds me of the live stream we did on dark design patterns.
Yeah.
Which is a very ethics coordinated topic,
Sure,
also. And I can, because I've talked about it with some designers, and they were like, it's really interesting because I actually think about this too. I'm pretty sure that schools like this help with developing
games. I hope so. And what's also stressed a lot, and I also stress it too, is that diverse characters and diverse stories add value. They add value to games. And why not make games more accessible and inclusive to the most amount of people possible? Why not? And I think a lot of times people think that diversity, so including diverse characters or diverse storylines, they think that it won't be profitable. And that is just not true. It's just not true. Those two are not mutually exclusive. When you have people in a game who look like me, for example, that appeals to a wider audience. So why not make the goal of having your art as accessible and meaningful to as many people as possible? So that's also something that we talk about with our students as well. And so many of these things have been done before. So many stories have been done before. So many characters also look the same. You've seen characters like them before. So True. Why not? It's also an exercise in creativity to invent something new, but also appeal to an audience that maybe you haven't touched
and
before.
Deepen the character.
Exactly. I mean, like, these are maybe our students that are working on these games. And so we have to think about, like, the next generation of gamers as well. We as gamers and people in the industry, we are influenced by what we play. We are influenced by what we see. And so we want to at least familiarize our students with topics of, like, working sustainably in the industry. If these topics students are at least aware of and have heard discourse about, in which otherwise maybe they wouldn't, hopefully that will impact them by the time that they are creating in the industry. And then the consumers of those things will also hopefully be impacted. And then they hopefully, like, will see themselves in a game more. And I think also, like, what you say about the experience of playing a game, because you have agency in a game. Like, it's different than watching a movie or watching a TV show. Like, you are playing as someone. And that is also why I think diversity and inclusion has a specifically prominent role and powerful role in games. It's because there's that empathy factor that maybe, I mean, of course it exists in other media like TV or film as well, but you are playing as somebody. Sometimes these topics can seem really ambiguous to people who are working in the industry, but it can just be, like, very slight things to keep in mind and very slight changes to make. And it's, like, small changes that you can make that it can make an impact. And sometimes you don't realize until you meet somebody who's, like, really impacted by that change. But no, it doesn't necessarily have to be binary. It's just like this one or that one, or this one. Like, I think there were several different options. It was like this one, that one, this one. And I think that's awesome.
Do you have anything that you want to say on this podcast that you're like, this is something that I want to tell people, or that I feel that maybe they don't know yet?
I would like to share two things. The first thing, so this is just the first thing I recently learned at a conference that I went to. It was the Develop conference in Brighton. That was it's a conference focused on game development and design, but it was incredible to see all the ethically relevant talks about diversity and inclusion that really took the center stage at this conference. It wasn't just like an extra, to check a box. And I found that really important. But I went to talk about supporting marginalized communities in games. And it was from Cinzia is her name, and she's the CEO of Code Coven, which is an organization that works with giving game studios basically accreditation for putting in the work in terms of diversity and inclusion and putting in meaningful work. So again, not just checking a box. And she said something during her talk that was really interesting. And I found it was something that I learned, so I why not share it as well? When we're talking about people of color, for example, or people from the LGBTQ community, or women in games, non-binary people in games, a lot of times we say minorities. And a lot of times who we refer to as minorities aren't actually minorities in the world.
Yeah.
Like,
women is like 50-50.
Yeah, it's not true. So why are we saying minorities? And so what she said that could be replaced with is marginalized.
Yeah. Because
it puts the focus on society. It puts the focus on an external impact, and not on the number, and also not on the individual, and like
in a negative way.
Exactly, and in a negative way, and also in a way that like that can't be changed about the person. And so she said, focus on the word marginalized, because it puts the stress on that external societal factor.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, and if you just say minority, that person actually
feels also minor, right?
Feels minor, feels less than, feels like they're not being seen, and also like in the scope of the world, they're probably not a minority. And something else that I would like to share, and I'm sure you also have like had similar feelings or experiences in your career as well. Sometimes this can be really tough. It is not always easy to fight for inclusion, to have a space and to have an importance in which other people might not, maybe not maliciously and maybe not even intentionally, other people sometimes don't see the crucial aspect of this. If you trust that what you are working on means something to you and means something to other people, keep going. And look out also for those small victories. Those tiny, like seemingly tiny acts of kindness or messages that you share with people, they will, I think, have more of an impact than you think or you give yourself credit for. So I know it's very cliche, I think, but trust what you're doing and keep the faith, and also surround yourself, or try as much as possible to surround yourself with people who see that value, see the value in inclusion and making sure that people belong.
Have you experienced a non-inclusive event in your life yourself? And how did you deal with that? Or how would you recommend other people to have dealt with it in in the situation?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and it was something that I've been giving a lot of thought to. What I have to tell myself is that just repeat to myself, know your worth. Keep showing up, keep talking, even if people don't want to listen. Keep talking.
Well, we are going to stop talking.
And we are going to stop doing what I just said was important.
Because this was a great interview. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Aline. It was so great to be here.
All right. Well, I hope you viewers enjoyed. And if you have any questions, you can put them in the comments. I will definitely put also some links to Allie in the description of the video. And I hope to see you on the next podcast. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.